Your Age of Fire Emblem Heroes is officially underway. For update 8.2, we have new refines for Ashnard, Fiora, Rinkah, Bernadetta, and young Caeda. This month we have remixes for Mythics, Triandra, and Reginn. Today we'll be going over all the new weapons on hand and discuss general playstyle and build ideas. If you plan to revamp builds for your old favorites, just a reminder that with this update you can now have 5 slots when skill inheriting. This lets us take a full tier 4 skill plus 1 extra now. Rearmed and attuned heroes just got even more valuable. Now, first up for today is Fallen Ashnard. I always forget he's classified as Fallen Alt because, well, the joke is that Ashnard is kinda just always like that. This big bad is a heroic growl sword flyer with a rarer, slower stat spread. Gurgurant did receive some excellent updates. This 16-might sword still has built-in IO shield and tacks on an extra +3 defense. It originally had a -5 attack and defense rain effect, except now that 2-space range has been doubled to 4 spaces. In addition to stat debuffs, Ashnard neutralizes foes' attack and defense field buffs, prevents a follow-up attack, and inflicts guard on those enemies in range. Gurgurant quite literally doubles down on the rain effect. Ashnard can provide a multitude of support effects to allies who fight enemies within that 4-space range. He himself also gets the same benefits, and they are always active at all times. For a free unit, kind of a cool niche, Ashnard is emitting that final boss menacing aura. As for the refine, if foe initiates or is above 75% HP, Ashnard inflicts attack and defense debuffs based on 15% of his defense stat in combat, plus with a base of -5. He also gets 30% damage reduction for all hits in combat. The refine is only personal effects and just adds to Ashnard's tanking and damage output. As a baseline, if Ashnard were to have 40 flat defense, he will inflict an extra -11 attack and defense. With the base weapon effect, that is -16 attack and defense total. Altogether, he also gets IO shield, 30% DR, low attack and defense, follow-up denial, and guard. No free follow-ups here, but Ashnard does get all the basic tanking perks and a somewhat unique ability to share some of them with teammates. Neat little refine. In terms of playstyle, Ashnard becomes an even better tank, but his general killing power won't be the highest. Good base attack with lots of defense debuffs, but that ain't enough with no follow-ups or DR piercing. You can get DR pierce with no quarter, but fast charging will require cooldown support and or emblem marth. For follow-ups, good old quicker pose is an option, or if you want to initiate, then Brash Assault 4. Both have %DR at tier 4, but only for their respective phases. If you just want to have fun, we have that distant counter Sacred Seal, otherwise go with your DCA skill of choice. If you want stats, Clash, Catch, or Unity are all fine. For B skill options, if you want to go full tank, then Gambit or Guard Bearing 4 are the picks, Guard Bearing for lower cooldown specials, or Gambit for the 4 or 5 cooldown options like Aether. One unique trait for Ashnard is his pseudo support via Gurgurant's now massive 4-space debuffing aura. One way to utilize it is stacking with double or maybe even triple range skills. Hold skills have a 3-space range, but Reign's 2 range can be utilized well with Savior teams. Maybe you got Brave Sorin. Any Savior that protects Ashnard will receive all the debuffing benefits of Gurgurant plus your other range skills. This is quite a lot of bonus stats through debuffing, but now your allies can also get low attack and defense, guard, and a follow-up denial. Another way to use Gurgurant is Guidance 4 skills. With the 2-space warp, a range attacker fighting a foe will still be in range of Gurgurant's refine. You can also do Rain Snap for movement. For other support options, Snag 4 might work for turtling. If you don't really mind not hitting everyone, you can try tier 4 ploys with some flat res stacking. Fortress defense and res can help, but ideally you're gonna have to have maxed out Ashnard to start with. Some other random skills you can run are Mystic Boost 3 or 4 in either slot for sustain, Panic Smoke 4 just for stat advantages, and maybe even Deadly Miasma if you need Ashnard to put on some player phase pressure. I'm not going to recommend it, but if you're a crazy speed stacking fan, perhaps Potent 4. Overall, Fallen Ashnard got a great refine and is still a fairly unique unit. He is more of a pure tank type, but Gurgurant's new debuffing range opens up some nice defensive support. Just be careful of feud skills. If you need a really annoying frontline unit, Ashnard can do his part just by standing there. Our next refine goes to Fiora, a retired 5-star Lance Flyer. She's a Pegasus Knight that focuses on speed and res with not great defense. Fiora will have a new weapon, the Airborne Spear. This thing is pretty interesting. 16 might, if the unit initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +4 to all stats, grants full no follow-up effects, and if Fiora has higher res, she reduces damage by percentage equal to the difference between res stats times 4, max of 40%. As far as base effects, no follow-up and Dragon Ball damage reduction is an unusual combo. Both effects focus on that higher speed and res stats. Further refined, if Fiora has 125% HP, she gets another plus 4 stats, full tempo effects, she heals 7 HP after combat, and then has a somewhat unique effect. If Fiora uses an offensive special, and her speed plus res stat total is higher than the foe's speed plus res stats -5 during combat, then she gains a -2 instant cooldown before her first attack. I know we just had the Winter Banner, but instant cooldown is still not the most available effect just yet. As for the stat check, this could be a nod to Pegasus Flight 4. Fiora was the first unit with the initial tier 3 skill, and she may not necessarily want to run the tier 4 since Airborne Spear already has no follow-up. Instead of follow-up denial though, the speed plus res check will give instant cooldown, and Fiora just has to be within 5 points of the foe's speed plus res total. Additionally, in what may be a first, the speed plus res check ignores phantom skills. So, for example, all those tier 4 dodge B skills will not help in this comparison. Overall, Airborne Spear is a very intriguing weapon with a mishmash of effects. Full enough follow-up and tempo are not available to flyers via skills. We got Dragon Wall DR, after combat healing, and then instant cooldown. Fiora can run some unusual builds with this refine, although I do think she is more suited to being an initiator. First off, let's start with something spicy. No quarter, just 3 cooldown. With no guard and the -2 instant cooldown, Fiora will proc the special if she follows up. In fact, you can proc Glacies if the enemy hits back. To take things further, let's apply Emblem Marth for an accelerated special. 2 cooldown no quarter means if Fiora wins that speed plus res check, she instantly procs no quarter on her first hit. If you were to run Potent 4, if the enemy survives and counters, that will give 1 cooldown. Fiora's follow-up, hopefully with her good speed plus no follow-up, will give another -1 cooldown. The Potent follow-up then triggers and she can proc a second no quarter. Keep in mind, all the damage from Potent's attack is reduced down to that 80 or 40% amount, but this is still more damage you would not have gotten otherwise. For even more damage though, you could run something like Flared Sparrow, and to get in range, Rain Snap adds extra movement. In this type of build, Potent adds more % DR and we got a lot of speed buffs, but we are lacking bonus res for Dragon Wall. This is an issue for these types of multi-stat checking playstyles. Fiora wants more of everything, but you gotta have to sacrifice something somewhere. I would say the instant cooldown is most important, so you could drop some res to buff speed since it's added together. However, if you can boost resistance enough, Fiora may be able to counter Scowl, which itself counters her new instant cooldown. If you counter Scowl, you also beat the enemy's Dragon Wall effects. With this in mind, if you're gonna go for a player phase setup, Deadly Miasma is really good for Fiora. -5 to all 4 stats and neutralized field buffs to all stats is exactly what Fiora wants. She can make use of every debuff for Airborne Spear and just generate extra damage and tanking power. You could add Near Trace Kanto to get in and out, although we are giving up power from things like Gambit, Guard Bearing, Assassin's Strike, Potent, or even Pegasus Flight 4, which yes, you can run if you want. For other skills, speed and res stat boosters are tough to come by. We don't even have a Clash version, so it's either catch or solo. If you want, I do think Fiora could go Stillwater. This could let you run something like a Ploy 4 to help out your team. Reminder, Squad Ace BW will give you +3 speed and res with +5 HP. As per usual, flyer mobility skills are available, but Fiora needs all the stats she can get. Oath skills would be nice, but there is no speed and res Oath 4 yet. Since we got Tempo, you could add Guard to further mess with cooldown. All in all, definitely one of the more interesting Lance Flyers for sure. I'm not sure how many people have a fully invested Fiora, but Airborne Spear will do best with max stat investment from Merges and Dragon Flowers. Next Ode 5-star is Rinkah. She's an axe infantry with good speed and defense. Rinkah's club got some pretty good updates. It's a 16-byte axe with excited specials. If Rinkah is not at full HP, or the foe has more than 75% HP, or if the foe initiates combat, she gets +5 attack and defense, +4 speed and res. She gets breath type cooldown reduction, and reduces damage from first attacks with an S by 15% of her defense during combat. Previously, this weapon only gave extra cooldown when Rinkah got hit. It now gives cooldown for every action. Rinkah gets an extra +4 speed and res because one more point would have been outright busted. This weapon will also give a new activation condition for player phase. A new effect is some flat damage reduction based on 15% defense. This works on the first 2 brave hits as well. Further refined, if Rinkah is within 3 spaces of an ally, she gains +4 to all stats, heals 7 HP on hit, reduces damage from first attacks with an S by 40%, and her next counterattack deals true damage based on the total damage she reduced from the foe's first attack. First off, we got %DR to go with flat DR, very nice. Rinkah gets more stats, some healing, and the empowered counterattack reflecting back some of the damage she takes. Because of the unclear usage of first attack, I do not know if this includes the second brave hit. Other similar abilities do not have this extra text, so I have to assume it is going to count both brave hits. That would be ideal because Rinkah's percent DR and flat DR both affect the first 2 brave hits. Overall, we got lots of special manipulation with slang plus spread type cooldown, we got percent DR plus flat DR, on hit healing, and then the empowered counter, not bad at all. For playstyles, Rinkah is originally set up for counterattacking. She has distant foil, which completely ignores mages, and generally Rinkah will get cooked by high burst magic users. For physical threats though, she now has 40% damage reduction and then flat DR scaling off her own high defense stat. More tanking power and the actual counter will be empowered. In addition, Slang plus Bird type cooldown will charge up a nasty bonfire. If you want some consistency, you can use Tempo for no guard, with the tier 4 giving partial DR piercing. Maybe combo this with something like Attacking Defense Oath and when you need to squad a Sacred Seals. For full DR Pierce, you can rock Special Spiral 4, that will give Rinkah an always ready nuke afterwards. If you got no quarter, you could swap to Physical No Follow. This will leave Rinkah open to guard though, unless you have some Emblem Art Slang. For another build, you can run the usual Vital Astra times Pulse setup. Rinkah has decent speed and Physical No Follow can let her get those doubles with potential double special procs. With Finish 4, Rinkah will heal 14 HP every hit. Vital Astra adds another percent DR source, but you can also go for Godlike Reflexes. Buffer 4 for the instant charge, and the Refine can recharge the special. If you had Emblem Marth, 1 cooldown Godlike Reflexes is even more consistent. Speaking of which, Rinkah could run Potent 4 for the extra attack. She will want no follow-up though, so either the Sacred Seal, Infantry No Follow 4, or outsourcing would be ideal. For some other skills, Surge Barrel could be used if you want some healing on riskier initiations. New from Valentine's Ephraim on the next banner is Earthfire Boost 3. Rinkah does want extra HP for her DR skills, and you can get Guard potentially. For C skills, any Smoke 4 would be used for Mixed Phase, and Menace is an alternative to the Oath self-boss. I would say Rinkah got a decent refine for her club. It's easy to use, and she gets some solid defensive perks if you want to go for a high defense stacking setup. She isn't the fastest, but has decent speed if you want to play around with certain skills. Magic will be a problem. Maybe Godlike Reflexes can keep her alive, but it's just rough tanking anything these days. Our next refine is for CYO8 winner, Bernadetta. OG Bernie is a colorless bow cav with good speed. She got 1 addition for her Persecution bow. This 14-mite weapon gets an extra +3 attack. At start of combat, if a penalty is active on Bernie or she has less than full health, grant +5 attack and speed, grant a free follow-up attack, and Bernie has Desperation. Real quick, I don't think I mentioned that Emblem Marth's Desperation effect works on both phases, so my bad. His Dual Winter ult had a similar effect. Bernie, though, is going to have the usual player phase Desperation. She gets a free follow-up to use for Desperation, but offensive follow-up generally is better for the faster units. I think they did this because Bernie is going to get some other strong effects. For the Refine, at start of every turn, if Bernie is within 2 spaces of an ally, she deals 1 damage to herself and those allies, plus Bernie gets -1 cooldown. If Bernie initiates or the foe has more than 75% HP, grant bonus attack and speed equal to the damage taken as of start of combat ×2 with a base +5. Bernie also gets bread type cooldown reduction. The bonus attack and speed is going to max out at +15. To get here, Bernie must have lost 5 HP. 5 × 2 is 10, +5 for 15. Not a huge surprise, the OG Bernie is getting the niche her 2 seasonal alts have. The self-inflicted damage is used to instantly proc the Desperation effect, or well, it's used to proc the weapon entirely. The difference is that this Bernie is always going to lose 1 HP every single turn, and this is because she also gains -1 cooldown. That is unique and obviously quite strong. For example, in longer fights, Bernie is just going to get stronger and stronger. Every turn she gets more attack and speed and cooldown. By turn 5, without any fighting, she gets her max +20 attack and speed total, and you're going to have -5 cooldown at that point. If that wasn't enough, Bernie has bread type cooldown in combat. Now, besides self-inflicted damage to set up Desperation, you can use this HP loss to activate HP swapping skills. This is one way to set up things like Vantage 3 or Escape Route 4 like her Spring ult. Do be careful though, as Bernie lowers allies HP as well. This can just mess up anyone that requires full HP such as Ideal skills. In terms of playstyle, Bernie is a pure Glass Cannon initiator. If she doesn't get the 2-tap KO, she will probably die on the counter. With the Refine, she will self-proc her base weapon, so instant Desperation and a free follow-up to use it. On turn 1, she also gains -1 cooldown, so you can get Deadeye down to 2 cooldown. Bernie's first hit's going to charge Deadeye, second hit will proc it, and hopefully you got a dead enemy. In terms of budget, Bernie's base kit is fine. Attack and speed push 4 inflicts -5 recoil, so after one fight, she's gonna have her max +20 attack and speed bonus. Low speed and defense is obviously just more damage potential. If you want some newer skills, Flared Sparrow is the new hotness for pure instant damage. You can stack that with Assassin Strike, which also adds some true damage. Inside attack and speed grants easy self buffs, and you can get more stats when mostly solo. For long range initiations, attack and speed solo is another easy stat booster. The main issue for Bernie is that it's kinda easy to stop her game plan if you don't wait a few turns. Follow-up Denial is gonna force a speed check. She might win that, but Guard can stop something like the turn 1 Deadeye 2-tap. Hardy Bearing just stops in Desperation entirely. If Bernie can stall, you may be able to get an instant Deadeye, and you could even apply this to the AoE specials. Obviously, Bernie won't be recharging specials instantly, so she isn't the strongest back-to-back fighter. If you want to hit and run, Vartrace Kanto is an option, and you can try Escape Route for it too. No tier 4 defense Vartrace, but they do exist, so just gotta wait. For C skills, Fatal Smoke 4 can get rid of Miracle effects, Defense from Smoke can give Pathfinder, otherwise you kinda just have to stack all attack and speed. If possible, Bernie would rather have offense and a follow-up for combat. That could open up something like Wind or Water Sweep for more safety options. Speed Preempt with a charge special is another cheesy setup. While Bernie is basically a very simple initiator who can pre-charge specials without fighting, her HP manipulation potential is a neat aspect. It requires more planning, but with skills like Ardent Sacrifice or Reciprocal Aid, you can open up more strategies. It also just auto-primes Desperation 4 and Escape Route 4 for other teammates. 3-Space Warp should not be underestimated. Cobra Refine, I guess we'll see if Brave Bernadetta wants to do the same trick for a 4th time. For this month's Season Refine, we have young Caeda, Bass Sword Flyer, who has a quirky weapon. Feather Sword has 16 might, grants another +3 attack, and is effective against sword, lance, axe, cutlass bow, and armored foes. If foe initiates combat or has more than 75% HP, Caeda gets +4 to all stats and full no follow-up effects. If the foe initiates and is armored or uses sword, lance, axe, or cutlass bow, or if Caeda is under 90% HP, she will gain Vantage. Feather Sword is wild, effective against 4 weapon types and all armored units, and Caeda gets perma Vantage against those foes as well. She also has the usual Vantage 3 HP threshold against any enemy, but it's now been increased to 90% HP to activate. Wow, I wonder where we can get a unit who can manipulate 10% HP for Caeda. My only gripe with this refine is that they kinda just ignored the fact that there are more than colorless bows now. While Caeda can set up regular Vantage, she won't be able to get the effective damage versus the colored archers. That's kind of an issue if you want to go for a one-shot on those foes. To be fair, damage reduction can also foil Vantage one-shots, and Caeda won't have easy access to DR Piercing. This Vantage effective damage playstyle is a bit one-dimensional, so added on for Caeda is no follow-up. She is quite fast at base. The Refine will add more versatility. She now has Kanto 2. If above 25% HP, grant +4 to all stats, grant bonus attack and speed based on allies within 3 spaces, and reduce damage from first attacks with an S by 40%. Caeda can get another +6 attack and speed if she's near 2 allies. Overall, the main point of this refine is to give Caeda more combat options, up to +14 attack and speed, plus a defense and res, 40% DR, no follow-up, and Kanto. I'm not a fan of the 25% HP condition for a unit with a Vantage threshold. That's kind of lazy design, even if it's a big gap to play with. Now, we should mention Caeda's unique B skill, Belief in Love. Sadly, that belief is going to get crushed because this thing only grants -5 attack and defense debuffs. I don't think that's going to be the optimal choice nowadays. We have way more interesting skills. For general playstyle, young Caeda came with distant counters to go with the old Vantage cheese alongside the effective damage. You can't Vantage those colorless archers without distant counter. Well, now you can use the DC Sacred Seal, and you can run a higher stat boosting A skill. Clash, Catcher, Unity, all good. Unfortunately, there is just too much damage reduction around for me to feel confident in any Vantage one-shot shenanigans. I do think you need some form of DR Piercing if you want to accomplish that. Legendary Camilla would be the easiest, but you could also run Legendary Alir with something like Rally Spectrum for an Instant Glimmer or Moonbow. Obviously for Vantage strats, you want as much attack as possible, so Oath 4 would be nice. For the B slot, I don't feel there's anything super synergistic for Vantage here. Still Defense 4 would be fine, but we can have multiple B skills that have smaller defense debuffs with other effects. Like with the Refine, we can add a bit more versatility. For example, Potent 4 adds another layer of %DR with that Potent follow-up. Potent, Gambit, Guard Bearing add more %DR, which can help when Caeda can't Vanish an enemy. I do think instead of committing to a Vanish playstyle from the get-go, it's going to be better to focus on player phase with Vanish as a backup plan for enemy phase. Caeda has no follow-up and Kanto 2, plus we can stack multiple %DR skills to tank 1 or 2 counterattacks. Aerial maneuvers would be an excellent pick as well for the 2-space warp and dive bomb. Remember, Feather Sword does just have multiple effectiveness perks at all times. With aerial maneuvers or just Journey Desperation, you could have a makeshift budget swift slice like Fimoshez without any speed checking. If you want 3 movement, you can use something like Rain Snap, and we can tack on other player phase perks like Flared Sparrow or Deadly Miasma. Unfortunately, Vanish isn't going to be benefiting from all of these skills. That's kind of the trade-off. Young Caeda's Refine is nice for general usage, but you're going to need to look elsewhere if you want to support Vanish. At the very least, if you have something like Bernadetta and her Refine, Caeda can set up the normal advantage against any weapon type. One Ardent Sacrifice would do the job. However, to really capitalize, you're going to want Cooldown support and her DR Piercing. For general content, Caeda would love the help of the Ghost of her future husband. Without Emblem Marth, you need Heavy Blade if you want to proc something like No Quarter. Heck, with aerial maneuvers, you can't even proc Glimmer or Moonbow without extra cooldown, and No Quarter would need Marth Slaying plus some cooldown perk. Caeda has effective damage against a lot of foes, but Flyers still lack those cooldown skills. Our last 2 refines are accompanied by Mythic remixes. First up, Triandra, a green flying mage dancer. Her unique Frightful Dream dance got upgraded slightly. When dancing, an ally inflict -5 to all stats, inflict the guard status, plus inflict the discord status on foes in cardinal directions of Triandra and her ally. Very simple buff. Triandra's Ruse type dance ability improves its stat penalties and adds discord, which tacks on more stat debuffs if the enemy is near their team. For the recent attuned Triandra, she simply has Sabotage instead of Discord. Now, for Triandra's Flower of Sorrow, grant +3 attack, inflict -5 defense res on any foe in cardinal directions of Triandra. If foe has more than 75% HP, or if another foe is within 2 spaces of that target, inflict -4 attack, speed, and res on the target during combat. Basically, improve the long range debuff by 1 point, and Triandra gets some stats for herself. For the Refine, when above 25% health, inflict another -4 attack, speed, and res on the foe, grant a free follow-up attack, and after combat, if Triandra attacked, deals 10 damage to target and foes within 2 spaces of the target. You may have noticed that the remixes and refines for the fairy dancers are all quite basic, sort of the same for Legendary Azura. The devs do not give refines to regular dancers, so these Legendaries and Mythics ones have all felt a bit tame, with most of the improvements going into combat for the dancer themselves. In terms of support, Triandra adds a bit more stat debuffs and discord to her team capabilities, appreciated but nothing majorly game-changing. As for personal combat, Triandra does have Glass Cannon base stats. She inflicts -8 to everything but defense, and now has a free follow-up attack plus a better Savage Blow type out of combat damage effect. As a Dark Mythic, if your Triandra wants to run into the enemy unit, she will at least deal some damage after combat. If she attacks a slower unit who doesn't counter back, Triandra could maybe score a nice double into Follow-up Denial. In terms of playstyle, not a lot of new things to talk about. If our dancer dances, then job done. As part of the remix, Triandra will get Firestorm Dance 3, which will add +6 attack and speed field buffs, Kanto 1, and the Desperation status to any ally. Very solid offensive support, which will go with Frightful Dream stat debuffs, guard, and discord. If you can fight in a straight line, Flower of Sorrow can add another -5 defensive res on the target. Generally, that's meant for Aether raids. As a flying dancer, Triandra has the whole assortment of flyer mobility skills at her disposal. Currently, Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance are excellent for warping, stats, and offensive follow-up. You can maybe create new warp options by giving Triandra Flyer Formation or Aerobatics. From her base kit, Triandra will have Speed and Res Rain. Technically, this can stack with her weapons debuffs, but the enemy would have to be real close. In the Secret Skill slot, we do have a couple dancer skills for additional field buffs. If you want Kanto, Far Trace is available. Now for combat, Triandra is disadvantaged in Aether raids with no extra blessing stats and dancer BST. She can do some decent damage, but is gonna die to basically any hit. With the Refine's new splash damage, in case your Triandra does run it down, you could just opt for a do as much damage as possible build. Flared Sparrow and Occultist Strike is a guaranteed 14 damage, with the Refine adding another 10 after combat. For general use, you could try Remote Sparrow for damage reduction, maybe Wind or Water Sweep to be annoying. You could also run Poison Strike, Savage Blow, or Deadly Miasma as well. All in all though, fairly simple dancer remix and refine, little bit extra support, mainly a focus on extra combat power. At the very least, Triandra can contribute if the AI descends to send her in gung-ho. Last up for today is Mythics Reginn, our Book 5 freebie unit. offensive sword cavalier, and I guess she would be up next for this year's Tempest side plot. I wonder what her ascended or attuned alt is going to be. To start, Regin's unique Satyr Shell special got an upgrade. At start of turn 1 and 4, grant -3 cooldown to Regin. This special does a predetermined 20 damage and has adaptive damage for that attack. Satyr Shell went from 15 to 20 damage and now recharges on turn 4. Regin basically has an instant adaptive damage special ready to go, and she can reload if needed. Moving on to her sword, Lyngheiðr or something. This is a 16 might weapon with an extra +3 speed. Regin will gain Conto 3 for the first 4 turns of battle. If she initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +6 attack and speed, grant +4 defense and res, neutralize attack and speed debuffs, and reduce damage from the foe's first attacks with an S by 40% during combat. The base weapon improves its damage reduction from 30 to 40%, and it works against brave hits. Regin also gets bonus defense and res, and neutralizes attack and speed debuffs, so running Clash 4 will kind of be redundant. Previously, this weapon was player phase only. It now can work on the enemy phase. Decent update. Further refined, if above 25% HP, grant +4 to all stats, grant full no follow-up effects, and deal true damage on hit equal to 20% speed during combat. Very simple add-ons. Regin is decently fast, so no follow-up will let her double those slower tanks and neutralize those quicker post skills. Bonus true damage adds to Regin's instant special burst, and hopefully she hits twice. Main new takeaway is that Regin has an innate phase now. If she has to get hit, she has damage reduction and no follow-up to not get abused by slower foes. However, as a 3-move Cavalier with Conto 3, obviously we want the Mech Poly Mythic to get in there. For her general game plan, Regin should initiate with her instant special and double the enemy if needed. She then can fully retreat with Conto 3. With the remix, Regin can recharge Satyr Shell on turn 4, and that's going to be her last turn with Conto. Scoring another hit and run would be nice. With that said, for Aether Reigns, Regin is still a purely combat mythic who is not getting extra stats. She'll do absolutely fine for regular content, but not everyone's going to want a pure combat mythic on their team. As part of the remix, Regin will get Panic Smoke 4 for free. Nice upgrade for her hit and run playstyle. She can debuff foes, gain full penalty doubler, and Panic Field Bust. Regin's base kit is generally still okay. Swift Sparrow for more attack and speed, and low speed and defense to handle field buffs. We can definitely add some new modern skills though. It's not unique and it's expensive, but again, the Flared Strike build is kind of just the hot new pure damage setup. 14 instant damage plus the pre-charge adaptive damage special is pretty good, and Regin can set up the flame tiles to retreat behind. For more stats, Insight Attack and Speed has self-boss and bonus attack and speed. The issue with this setup and pretty much any basic build is that Regin has no DR piercing method. Legendary Leer would be excellent, but otherwise we don't got a spot for no quarter unless you drop Satyr Shell. If you do that, then now the issue is cooldown. Heavy Blade is the sole skill outside of ally support. For the same reason, while Gale Force can proc with Heavy Blade, we don't have the consistency of no guard or bread type cooldown or slaying. Well, Emblem Mark can solve that last problem. Now, for other skills, with the refined Regin CADs in enemy phase, you can swap over to mixed phase effects like Catch 4, Panic Smoke 4, and a % DRB skill like Guard 4 or maybe Potent 4. For some fun safety skills with no follow-up, Regin could hit and run with Wind or Water Sweep. Maybe this could set up Defense from Smoke's Pathfinder effect for allies. As for general effects, Guard is nice to have to not get bopped back by higher crit on special counters. Overall though, Mythic Regin got an okay refine and remix. It's not bad, but it does feel a bit lacking, especially if you want to use her in Aether Raids. As a comparison, Regin is pure combat, and we recently got another freebie Asher Mythic in Ratatoskr. Very similar skill sets. Melee cows with high speed, no follow-up Conto and %DR, where Ratatoskr doesn't have a pre-charge special, she has Slang and Bread type cooldown, which would make Gale Force easier to run. Additionally, she has support perks via her C skill, including a Divine Vein Terrain. Even with a brand new refine and remix, I wouldn't say Regin is a clear better choice over Ratatoskr. You can run both if you really got no one else though. That's going to be it for this month's new refines. I'm a bit whelmed by the remixes for this month, nothing super crazy for our older mythics. For our other units, I would say most are pretty good. Ashnard leaned heavily into his menacing debuffing aura, and Fiora got a rather unique weapon. Rinkah is quite fun, kinda has a Brave Dimitri type vibe, and Bernie gets stronger doing what she does best, staying in her room. Young Caeda got good upgrades if you want to use her for general combat, but she didn't really lean into her advantage shtick. Still, free effective damage is never bad. Let me know your thoughts on this month's refines and share your builds with others in the comments. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Sacred Stones Valentine's banner, which is going to decimate my orbs for the next month. Let's see what's in store for our first proper new banner of year 8. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys soon.